Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramanan and these are the top headlines that we're tracking for you. Stocks slide on. The Dalal Strait mid-cap see a sharp fall. Nifty fails to hold 25,100. Rupee regains some lost ground but remains closer to the 89 mark against the US dollar. A majority of India Inc. expects GDP growth to be near 7% this fiscal. A CNBC-TV18 poll among 80 top CEOs shows industry is expecting RBI to ease interest rates further. Top executives also expect rupee to stay in the range of 88 to 89 against the dollar. That's an exclusive.
We expect to increase our trade with the US on the energy products in the years to come.
CommerceMinister Piyush Goyal says India wants to increase the purchase of oil and gas from the United States as trade talks resume. Minister Goyal is in the United States for the first time since US imposed 50% tariffs on India, partly as a penalty for buying Russian oil. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar calls on the Global South to renew commitment to multilateralism at a meeting in the United Nations. US President Trump meets Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at the sidelines of the UN summit after claiming credit for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan once again. US government could consider scrapping the current lottery system for H-1B visas. HCL Tech's Roshni Nadar and many other IT executives do not see any major impact due to the visa fee hike. Majority of Indian CEOs expect India and the US to stick to the proposed timeline and sign a trade deal this year. Walmart-owned Phonepe files draft papers to go public through the confidential route. Plans to raise 12,000 crore rupees, according to sources. Existing investors, Walmart, Tiger Global and Microsoft, likely to sell about 10% equity. Swiggy exits Rapido by selling its 12% stake to Prosus and Westbridge Capital for nearly 2,400 crore rupees. Swiggy will also transfer Instamart to a wholly owned subsidiary in a slump sale to open up fresh options to raise funds. Union Cabinet approved shipping and maritime projects worth 70,000 crore rupees. This includes financial assistance and a development scheme for shipbuilding worth nearly 45,000 crore rupees. Also clears a maritime development fund worth 25,000 crores. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening, but let's start with the day's market action. Broad-based fall across the market, with Nifty failing to hold onto the 25,100 mark. Financials and mid-caps dragged the market lower, while FMCG stocks turned positive for the day. Prashant Nair joins us now with the day's trading action. Prashant, a bad day for the market there?
Well, the pause, the sideways move, whatever you want to call it, continues. The Nifty down another nearly 100 points or so. And from the highs, of course, we've now given back about 400 points on the Nifty. The Nifty Bank also some 650, 700 points off the highs. Mid and small cap indices also under pressure today. Market breadth has been poor for the second day running. Let's just quickly take a look at what else really came through. By the way, the real estate index was the top loser, about 2.5% cut on the Nifty real estate index today. In terms of large caps, you had Tata Motors, Bharat Electronics, Adani Enterprises, Wipro, IndusInd Bank and Jio Finance, which were the top losers. Power Grid, NTPC, Tata Consumer were stocks on the other side with some amount of gains. Broader markets, again, I mean, you know, the one pack which saw like a frenzied move over 2 days was the Adani pack, but it's been giving back some of that equally vigorously. Adani Power down 10 today, Adani Total down, Adani Energy Solutions down sharply. NetWeb continues to pull back, but very small, right? I mean, the outperformance has been so large that I think it barely pricks. Dilip Bilcon, Godrej Properties, Emco, where of course the OFS was down sharply, 14%. Reddington, Quality Power were some of the other stocks which came under selling pressure, with volumes as well. On the upside, Tata Investment Corp, which is like a investment vehicle, was up very sharply, has done well over the years. Minda Corp, Paradeep Phosphate was another one. Lotus, which is the recent listing. Sirma, there was Zuari, Bajaj Healthcare, Munjal Auto are some of the other single stocks which did well. But not far and few in between. Breadth, of course, negative, with many more stocks on the downside with volumes as opposed to what did well on the upside. Yesterday, of course, was a big day for the dollar rupee. But today, of course, it was quieter, but I think that at the margin is starting to weigh as well in terms of spillover risks, etc. At least it's been spoken about as we go into the next couple of sessions. Back to you.
All right, Prashant, many thanks for those details. But speaking about the rupee, the Indian rupee regained some lost ground against the US dollar. After a sharp rally in early trade, the rupee gave up some of those gains in late trade to end the day higher by just 6 paise. One US dollar now costs nearly 89 rupees. 10-year bond prices saw a minor drop and the yields hardened in trade. Onto a CNBC TV18 exclusive, a majority of India Inc. is expecting GDP growth to be in the range of 6.8 to 7%, which is largely in line with the government's expectation. A CNBC TV18 poll among 80 top CEOs showed that the industry is expecting RBIs to ease interest rates further. CNBC TV18 Shireen Bhan was at industry body CII's National Council meeting in Chennai. We polled the CEOs on several macroeconomic indicators, including the rupee, which majority expect to stay in the range of 88 to 89 against the dollar.
With the GST boost coming in, the chief economic advisor suggests that growth will be higher, perhaps closer to the upper end of the band that was presented in the economic survey, which was 6.8%. What is your growth expectation for FY26? Ladies and gentlemen, option 1, 6.5%, option 2, 6.8 to 7%, and option 3, more than 7%. Those of you who think that growth is going to be 6.5%, please raise your hands. Okay, no hands here on 6.5%, between 6.8 and 7%. Okay, quite a few. And those who believe that it is likely to be higher than 7%? Okay, so that's the mood of the House. Just what the chief economic advisor told us, 6.8 to 7%, a little better than the economic survey's estimates. That's the mood as far as industry is concerned. The second question, and again, I'd appreciate a vote, a show of hands here. Do you see inflation easing further, and do you expect the RBI to cut interest rates again? Yes or no? Very, very simple. Those who believe the RBI will cut rates, a show of hands, please. So most people in this room do believe that the Reserve Bank is going to cut rates. And the third question to kick things off here, we've seen what's happening as far as the currency volatility is concerned. Do you expect the rupee to end, option number 1, in the current band, which is between 88 and 89, to be stronger, which is below 88, or weaker above 89? Those who believe that the rupee is likely to trend in the current band, if you could raise your hands, please. Okay, and those who believe that it's expected to be stronger, that is above 88, just about 2 hands in the room, and those who expect it to be weaker, that's below 89. So majority expect the rupee to be in the band between 88 and 89. So let's get straight off. Rajiv Mani, I'll come to you to start with. What was your vote, 6.5 to 6.8 or 6.8 to 7%?
No, 6.8 to 7%.
Okay, and you believe the GST is going to help drive that number?
Yeah, I think GST will definitely help. I think firstly, the first quarter GDP growth was also was a very positive surprise, and from what we are seeing with the monsoons and the uptake because of GST on the consumption, just some of the early sentiment that we are seeing. We haven't seen the numbers as yet. I think 6.8 to 7% should be achievable. We are also seeing, if you look at steel, if you look at cement, the broader trend on the construction sector, which contributes a lot, that's very positive. We just saw yesterday mining sector is starting to show very positive growth. So I would say overall, 6.8 to 7% is probably a safe number to go with right now.
And moving on, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that India expects to increase its trade with the US in energy products in the years to come. Speaking at the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum in New York, Goyal said that India's energy security goals will have a very high element of US involvement. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar hosted a meeting of Global South nations on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Speaking at the meet, Jaishankar called on the Global South to renew commitment to multilateralism at a meeting in the United Nations.
The world recognizes that this is one area where we all have to work together. India is a very clearly energy trail, as Pankaj just mentioned. We are big importers of energy from across the world, including from the US. We expect to increase our trade with the US on the energy products in the years to come. And be close friends, natural partners. Our energy security goals will have a very high element of US involvement, which will ensure price stability, which will ensure diversified sources of energy for India, and help us unlock limitless possibilities with the US on various fronts, energy and beyond.
We meet in increasingly uncertain times when the state of the world is a cause for mounting concern for member states. The Global South, in particular, is confronted with a set of challenges which have heightened in the first half of this decade. They include the shocks of the COVID pandemic, two major conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, extreme climate events, volatility in trade, uncertainty in investment flows and interest rates, and the catastrophic slowing down of the SDG agenda. Most of all, the rights and expectations of developing countries in the international system, which has been so assiduously developed over many, many decades, are today under challenge. In face of such proliferation of concerns and multiplicity of risks, it is natural that the Global South would turn to multilateralism for solutions. Unfortunately, there too we are presented with a very disappointing prospect.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has claimed that India and China are the primary funders of the war in Ukraine because of their Russian oil purchases. In his first UN General Assembly speech since 2020, he also hit out at NATO countries, saying they have not cut enough of their Russian energy imports and hence they are funding the war against themselves. Trump once again claimed credit for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. He also had a brief interaction with Pakistan PM Sharif on the sidelines of the 80th session of UNGA. Let's listen in to what he said about India and China.
China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly.
Russia has called President Trump a businessman trying to sell U.S. oil after the U.S. leader's criticism of China and India purchasing Russian oil. The Kremlin said that Trump is trying to force the world to buy American energy at higher prices. However, the Kremlin spokesperson lauded Trump's willingness to work with Russia and find a solution to the Ukraine crisis. The Trump administration has announced plans to replace the current H-1B lottery system with a weighted selection process. The Department of Homeland Security has said that the selection will be based on wage level. The notice said the new process would give heavier weight to applications by employers who pay high wages. The criteria would apply if annual requests for the visas exceed the statutory limit of 85,000. And speaking of H-1B visas, India Inc. expects that there won't be a major impact from the Trump administration's decision. Speaking at the CII town hall, the industry expects the bilateral trade agreement between India and USA to be completed this year, as proposed by both the nations.
What is the expectation on the India-US BTA being done? Those of you who believe that we are going to see the India-US BTA conclude, the expectation, the hope, the assumption was that by fall this year. Those of you who believe that it will be done by fall this year, by November, which was the timeline estimated, do raise your hands. And those who believe that it will perhaps spill over into next year, raise your hands. So those who believe it will be done by this year, the India-US bilateral trade agreement, if you can raise your hands, please. Okay, a fair number. Those who believe that it's likely to slip into the next year, next financial year, or next calendar year, well, there's more who believe that it'll probably get done this year. So that's certainly good news.
I'd mentioned this before as well, that we can't let this, never miss a good crisis. And if at all, if you've seen the trend of H-1B visa applications over, let's say, even the last decade, India's the largest proportion, but the number has been coming down.
Yeah.
And a lot of conversations today that you have with your clients, and we're all pretty heavily indexed on the US, is around AI adoption and AI-led deals. This is not just a problem for the industry, it is also a problem for customers, clients, and actually some of the most biggest companies which are hit by this are actually American companies.
Yes.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, Union Cabinet approves shipping and maritime projects worth 70,000 crore rupees. More details on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Business 360. Swiggy has exited Rapido by selling its 12% stake to Prosus and Westbridge Capital for nearly 2,400 crore rupees. Swiggy will also transfer Instamart to a wholly owned subsidiary in a slump sale to open up fresh options to raise funds. Walmart-backed Phonepe has set its eye on going public. The payment aggregator has told CNBC-TV18 that they have filed IPO papers via the confidential route with SEBI, BSE and NSE. Ritu Singh joins us now with more details. Ritu, what are your sources telling you?
Well, Walmart-backed Phonepe has filed draft papers with SEBI for a mega IPO through the confidential pre-filing route. Now, the IPO, of course, has been in the works ever since Phonepe shifted its base from Singapore to India back in December of 2022. It later confirmed its IPO plans in February of this year, and now sources are telling us the company is looking to raise nearly 12,000 crore rupees, that's $1.35 billion, through an offer for sale in this IPO. Now, Walmart, which owns about 84% stake in the company, along with Tiger Global and Microsoft, are the three shareholders that will participate in the OFS, which will involve a combined dilution of around 10% stake. Now, Phonepe launched its digital payment app in 2016, and since then it has expanded into financial services and even consumer tech. It recently received RBI's final nod to operate as an online payment aggregator and remains a clear market leader in UPI payments. But on the numbers front, while losses are narrowing, Phonepe is not profitable yet. For FY25, revenues jumped more than 40% to about 7,100 crore rupees, while net losses came down by 13% to about 1,727 crore rupees. But this is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched listings in India's fintech space, simply because of the company's sheer scale. Phonepe was, remember, last valued at around $12 billion in the private funding round, and reports suggest it could now be eyeing a $15 billion valuation when it hits the public markets.
All right, Ritu, many thanks for those details. Now, the Cabinet has approved shipping and maritime projects worth 70,000 crore rupees. This includes financial assistance and a development scheme for shipbuilding worth nearly 45,000 crore rupees. The government has also cleared a maritime development fund worth 25,000 crores. Abhimanyu Sharma is here with all of those details. Abhimanyu?
Well, a host of schemes which have been approved by the Union Cabinet, but the biggest approval has been given for the maritime and the shipping sector. Now, the three sub-schemes which are a part of the overall approval within the Union Cabinet aim to improve overall shipping infrastructure, aim to improve shipbuilding capabilities of India, and also want to promote shipbuilding within India. It also wants to promote shipbuilding in lieu of ship breaking, which already takes place at several places, several ports across the country. Now, there would be a 25% financial assistance which would be given to green and hybrid vessels, and a 20% financial assistance which would be given to vessels over rupees 100 crores. Now, this is being initiated to ensure a larger gestation period is easily given to several ship makers who often find it difficult to raise capital and often find it difficult to get these amount of funds allocated to them. So the large gestation period as far as shipbuilding is concerned is going to be covered by means of such schemes. Also, the government aims to support the overall investment of rupees 4.5 lakh crores and 4.5 million GT shipbuilding capacity. It also aims to generate 30 lakh jobs in the period of next 10 years, for which this scheme has been approved. Also, the government wants to ensure that the overall shipping infrastructure and investment within the ecosystem is going to be promoted by means of these 3 sub-schemes which have been approved.
So big boost there for the shipping industry. Thank you so much for those details, Abhimanyu. And before we wrap, a setback for Elon Musk's social media platform X. The Karnataka High Court has dismissed a petition filed by the company against takedown orders issued by the government of India. Delivering its verdict, the court said social media cannot be left in a state of anarchic freedom and every nation regulates it. The court went on to say unregulated speech transcends into lawlessness and warned no social media platform is exempted from the law of the land. And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18.